You are not all alone in this world. Don't think that you don't have help. Don't think that no one is caring about you. The truth is, there are people who can help you and who are willing to help you. All you got to do is just step a little outside and seek for the help from correct people and from the correct places. So when the life throws challenges towards us, when there is tough times in life, we tend to think that we are the only person who is going through depression, anxiety, or stress or problems. But the truth is, if you see the world, there are millions and millions of people who are struggling and who are suffering in this life, right? We all struggle in our lives to live in this world, right? So it is not your suffering. It is not only my suffering. It is our suffering. We all are suffering in this world. The Buddha said, where there is birth, there is suffering. That is the reality. But we don't want to think about this suffering as something negative, right? It is not the suffering that makes us negative. It is the perspective that we are holding on to suffering makes us negative, right? So, today, I'm not here to talk about depression and how to quit the depression. Today, I'm going to share with you a simple Buddhist practice that can help you in healing these depressive thoughts or anxious thoughts or any kind of mental suffering that you're having. And this practice is called becoming mindful about your thoughts, right? Becoming mindful about your thoughts. In Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha explains this as Jnapanasati. So how can we practice becoming mindful about our thoughts? It is very simple, right? You can do this practice whenever you want or wherever you want. It is free. You totally have the freedom to do it, right? Here's how we can do this. And when we become mindful about our thoughts, what we are doing is we are not judging our thoughts, and also we are not trying to stop our thoughts, but we constantly become aware of what we are thinking, what comes to our mind. So all you got to do is you can sit down, or you can do this while walking, while traveling in the bus, or wherever you want. Just ask from yourself that what am I thinking? Then you will come across with these thoughts, right? So what we have to do is whenever you become depressed, whenever you feel anxious about yourself, whenever you feel sad about something, what you have to do is just notice it. Notice it as a thought. Because most of the time, we judge ourselves by thoughts. We are thinking about ourselves as our thoughts. But remember, you are not your thoughts. When you become more mindful, it gives you this ability to separate yourself from your thoughts, right? So we don't want to judge ourselves by our thoughts. What we are doing is we become mindful. We become more aware of our thoughts without judging. It is very simple. It's like this. It's like you're watching a traffic pass by sitting beside the road. You can see cars are going, you can see bikes are going, vans, buses, cargo carriers. There are so many vehicles that are going. All you're doing is you're just watching them. You're just noticing them, right? But most of the time what happens is we become more afraid about these vehicles and we try to jump into the middle of the road and we are trying to stop these things. Right? That is what you are doing. That is what we are doing when we become depressed or sad. When these sad and depressed thoughts haunt our mind, what we are doing is we are trying to fight it. We are trying to suppress them. We are trying to stop them. The more you try to stop these thoughts, it will come again and again. Remember that. So all you got to do is, we are not going to fight them, we are not going to stop them, we are noticing them, right? You can do this. Just ask this simple question from you: what am I thinking? Then you will find that, oh, my thoughts are depressed. It is not me that is depressed, my thoughts are depressed, right? So what is the nature of a thought? It will come and it will stay for a while in your mind and it will fade away. That is the nature of the thought. So it is just a thought. That means you are not the depression, you are not the anxiety, and you are not the stress. Remember, if you feel hopeless, if you feel that you are not good enough, don't believe what your mind always says. You are more capable than you think. You are more good than you think, right? So what is holding back us is this little frame that we are having inside our mind, that I am not good enough, I cannot do these things, I am not capable of doing these things, I am hopeless, no one is going to help me. If you change that mindset one day, remember, you can do better and you can do more than you think. So please, don't think that you are not good enough. I repeat again, that you are more capable of doing things more than you think, right? So believe in it and work for it. So if you are going through painful situations and if you are having painful memories about yourself, don't run away from them. Don't be afraid of them. Remember, pain is a part of growing, right? If you want to grow, sometimes you have to go through pain. Most of the time you have to go through pain. So if you practice these mindful exercises, and if you seek for the help, and if you do this proper medication for your mental suffering, then one day for sure you are going to be okay. You are going to be happy in your life. And this is the best part of recovering from these traumatic and painful situations. What is that? You can help someone who is in the same place as you were. You can say that, do these things, practice these things, think like this, because I know the pain that you are going through, because I was a person like you. But I am recovered now. You also can recover yourself. So you can inspire others and you can help others. And then you will find the real value of your life. So please do not think that you are not good enough. You're more than enough than you think. So remember these things and practice these things in your life. And I wish you all, may all of you find the real happiness in your life.
From today's video, let's discuss about how can we deal with anxiety and what to do when our mind becomes anxious, right? We all know that how it is painful when our mind becomes anxious and when we become afraid of the things that will happen in the future, or when the mind creates all these scenarios in our head about the things that will happen in the future, right? So how can we deal with this state of mind? There are a few things that we can do, right? But most of the time, when we become anxious, what happens is we become panicked and we take decisions that may not be the correct decision to take. Okay, so today I'm going to be sharing with you few things and few advices that I have given and that helped me a lot personally to deal with this anxiety. So the first thing that you have to do is, first, you have to be aware of your mental state, right? If you're anxious, if you're afraid of something, the first thing is to be aware of it and to accept it, right? Most of the time, we pretend not to be anxious. We pretend not to be fearful about the future, and we try to reject that state of our mind. The more we reject, the more it persists in our mind. So that is why the first step is to acknowledge and accept your current state of your mind. If you're anxious, just say to yourself, okay, now my thoughts are in anxiety mode, right? My thoughts are anxious. I am fearing about certain things. Acceptance will help you to catch the thought and to be more aware of it. And also, when you accept it, it creates less pain, right? Acceptance is the first step of healing. So the first step is to accept your current mental state. And the second step is, this is amazing, once you understand the current state of your mind, what you have to do, the biggest advice that I have given about anxiety is do one thing at a time, right? Take one action at a time, right? We all know that when we have lot to do, right? When we have many jobs to do, what happens? We start thinking about everything, right? We started loading these thoughts into our mind every time, and we try to do all at once. But in reality, we can't do all at once, right? One thing that we can do is we can take one job, one action at a time and do that, right? So how to do this? First of all, to clarify your thoughts and to be clear about what you have to do and what you can do and cannot do, first, sit down in a quiet place, take a piece of paper and write down all the things that you are fearing about, and write down all the things about the current situation that you are in. And also, most importantly, you have to write down the things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. When you clarify these things, you can take actions upon the things that are under your control. So one thing that you can do is sit down, write down all the thoughts, write down current situation of your life, and write down all the things that are under your control and not under your control, so that you're very clear about what to do and what not to do, right? So when you clarify that and take one action, just one action, and what you have to do, just execute that action, right? Don't try to do all the things, just pick one action and do it at one. It's something like this, right? Something like you're grabbing a bunch of oranges, right? What will happen if you try to grab a bunch of oranges at once? You can't grab all of them, right? It will fall, they will fall. So one thing that you can do is pick a basket, take one orange at a time and put it into the basket. In that way, you can grab many oranges. In the same way, when you clarify your thoughts and take one action at a time and execute it, then it will be clear in your mind and it will ease up your mental state. So do one thing at a time. And the third step is to do it slowly and deliberately, right? Even when you become clarified about what to do, don't be anxious, don't be panicked. What do you have to do? Do it slowly, right? One thing that a lot of meditation masters teach is that when you're anxious, do something slowly, right? Slow down. When your body becomes slow down, your mind becomes slow down. That's the connection between the body and our mind. When our mind is slow, our body is slow. When our body is slow, our mind is slow. So do things, take that action and do it slowly and deliberately. Do it with proper consciousness, proper awareness and proper mindfulness. That's so that you feel what you're doing. Then you understand what you're doing, right? So in that way, you can ease up this anxiety. And the last thing that you have to do is do it completely, right? Complete the action. When we are anxious about certain things, what we do, we don't complete that action, right? We just hang over that problem or that task and we don't complete it, right? One thing that you have to do is do it completely, right? Complete your action, do it slowly, deliberately, and finally complete that action so that that step is finished, right? And then once you complete that action, what do you have to do? Take the next step and do it slowly, deliberately and completely. In that way, you can clarify what you have to do, and also you will get a good time to take good decisions. So this is a little way and a tiny practice that you can add to your life to ease up your pain of anxiety. And whenever you are anxious about certain things, try this and it will ease up your pain of anxiety. So keep this little advice in your mind and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. In today's video, let's talk about how to control our negative emotions and how to control our mind. Well, the nature of our mind is it always likes to wander in negative emotions and negative thoughts. Negative thoughts like anger, desire or lust, or then jealousy, maybe resentment. These are the negative thoughts that our mind likes to wander in. So how can we control it? Well, our great teacher Supreme Buddha introduced us a gradual training where you can practice this controlling of negative emotions or negative thoughts in your mind. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce them to you. So first and foremost, before getting into these steps, there is one thing that you have to practice, and there is one thing that you have to master, and that is awareness. If you are not aware of what you are thinking, if you are not mindful about what you are thinking, then you cannot control it. So you have to totally understand and you have to totally be aware of what you are thinking. Okay? So whenever you become aware of what you are thinking, then you will have that power to control it. So here comes the first step. Buddha says, whenever you become aware of your mind is wandering in negative thoughts like anger or lustful thoughts or resentment or jealousy, the first thing is to shift your thought pattern to something wholesome. There are some wholesome thoughts in your mind which makes you peaceful. Maybe like thinking of something that you have done in the past, like maybe you helped someone. Whenever you think that thought, your mind becomes happy and peaceful. So what you're going to do is, whenever you become aware of your negative thoughts, we're going to shift our thought pattern to something that is wholesome, something that makes us peaceful. So that is the first thing that Buddha says. Shift your thoughts to wholesome thoughts. If that first step did not work out, then what you have to do, go for the next step. What is that? Buddha says, think about the disadvantages of thinking negative emotions, right? If you are constantly having angry thoughts, then you have to think, these thoughts are hurting myself and others. If I take actions according to these thoughts, it will hurt myself and the others. Remember, it may be a little thought of anger, but if it grow up, what will happen? It will be destructive. So what do you have to do? Think about the drawbacks or disadvantages of thinking these negative thoughts. Then, whenever you see these disadvantages, your mind will tend to stay away from these negative thoughts. Most of the time, we are not aware of these disadvantages. Okay? So what do you have to do? Think, if I keep on thinking these negative thoughts, it is not going to help me. It will disrupt my peacefulness. Right? That is the second step. Then as the third step, Buddha says, pay no mind, pay no attention. If the second step did not work out, go for the third step, to not to pay any attention to that thought. Right? See, whenever we give so much attention to something, maybe a thought, it grows again and again, it grows more, right? For an example, if you became angry with someone and if you keep thinking about him again and again and becoming angry, that anger will grow more and more. So what do you have to do? We have to let the thought be a thought without paying much attention, right? When you just stay away from giving attention, then it will fade away from your mind. It's something like this. Have you seen little babies, when they fall down, they start to cry, right? If the parent or the mother or father see that it is not a big deal of falling, if mother or father did not give any attention to that baby, what does he do? He just don't care about that. He will stop crying. Same thing goes with our mind. If we did not pay any attention to that thought, right? If we did not care about that thought and just let it go and let it pass away from our mind, then it will fade away. That is one way of doing that. If the third step did not work for you, then the Buddha says, go for the fourth step to relax your thought process, right? Now remember, when you think negative thoughts, your mind becomes so much busy, so much rough and distracted. So, what you're going to do is, you're thinking, why am I thinking these distractive thoughts? These negative thoughts that are making me so much busy and making me distracted, right? So, what you're going to do is, you're relaxing your thought process to something very soft and subtle. Maybe like loving kindness, maybe like compassion, right? Maybe like gratefulness. When you think those thoughts, when you think more positive thoughts, your mind or your thought process becomes so much relaxed. And then, if the fourth step did not work for you, then it comes the final step. This is something that we have to do with a great care. I do not recommend for everyone to do this. This should be done with a great experience and a good practice, right? And that is to crush your thought with awareness, right? You have to be totally aware of your thinking pattern and have a good determination to your mind that I am not going to think these negative thoughts, right? But this should not be done by everyone, right? Some may be not good at this, right? If you keep on becoming aware and if you keep on forcing this mind, it will grow more and more these negative thoughts. So if all those 4 steps did not work for you, then you have to go for the final step, right? So it is much better to practice these 4 thoughts before doing the final one, okay? So practice these things. When you practice, you will feel and you will understand that your negative emotions are fading away little by little. Remember, this is not going to happen overnight. It will take a long time to do this, but you have to keep on practicing. Keep on doing it, make it a habit, and then you will become a master of it. So practice this practice and make your mind a place where free from negative thoughts. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya. Welcome everyone to another video. So today, let's talk about loneliness and how we can face this situation. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 2 things. And the first one is the loneliness, and the second one is the solitude, which is more reframed version of being alone. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about loneliness. When we are around people, when we are living with people, and when we are in relationships with people, normally we feel happy. We feel that we are content, right? And we feel this joyfulness within ourselves. But when they are not around us, or when they leave us, sometimes when we have to depart from them, normally we feel depressed, sad, or lonely, or we feel like no one cares about us. So this is the feeling of loneliness. If we analyze this emotion of loneliness, we can find that we have become happy because of the people around us, because of their reaction, because of their way of behavior. That was the reason that we became happy. Simply it means that we have given the key of our own happiness to other people. So when they leave our life, sometimes when they depart from ourselves, sometimes when they fade away from our life, what happens to us is we become unhappy, we become sad, we become depressed, and we feel like no one is caring for us. There is no one to help for me. That is what we are thinking. So how we can deal with this? Well, that is where we come to the topic of solitude. Supreme Buddha advised us, Supreme Buddha advised the monks to practice this practice of being solitude. So what do you mean by solitude? So first of all, let's compare the loneliness to the solitude. Then you can take some idea about that. In loneliness, when you're lonely, you're thinking for someone to come to your life and make you happy. That means you're depending on others. Your happiness depends on others. But in solitude, you try to find the happiness within yourself. When you find the happiness inside yourself, you don't want to depend on another person. You don't want to depend on second person. You can find your happiness within yourself. And that is what the practice of solitude gives us. So when you are being solitude, or simply when you are being alone, now there are the people talk about this like the loneliness and being alone is two different things, right? So when you're being alone or when you're being in solitude, you're happy. You're not finding the happiness from these outer sources. You find the happiness within yourself. So Buddha teaches us to look at this loneliness not as something to be sad, not as something negative. Buddha teaches us to look at this loneliness something that is beneficial for you, something that is positive. So how we can use this loneliness, or how we can reframe this loneliness to be positive? Well, if you think about whenever you are being alone, you have more time for yourself, right? You have a bigger freedom for yourself. You can think about yourself. You can reflect more about yourself, and you can practice meditations, or you can think about your health and do some practices about that. You can do some self-development techniques, so you can improve yourself. So when you use that time, when you use that loneliness for good things, then you become more positive about that. Then you will never feel these sad or depressing states. So let me tell you a little story how Buddha felt lonely at one time. Actually, this incident happened to the Buddha before he became enlightened. We call him the Bodhisattva. When he was Bodhisattva, he was practicing this self-mortification for 6 years. He gave lots of hardships to this body. He did some extreme meditations in the jungle. So there were 5 monks who were helping the Bodhisattva. So he practiced this self-mortification meditation for 6 years, and he mastered that. Finally, he came to the conclusion of that I cannot achieve this enlightenment by self-mortificating or by giving this extreme hardship to this body. So he decided to find this middle way. So what he did was, first of all, he took his bowl and he went to the village and he got some foods to eat. Because he thought that to do the meditations, I need to have this physical energy. But those 5 monks who were helping to Bodhisattva, who were expecting the enlightenment from the Bodhisattva through this self-mortification, was so confused because they saw that the Bodhisattva is having these foods. Then those 5 monks thought, like, now he's not going to achieve this enlightenment. The enlightenment can only be achieved by this self-mortification. So they never believed on the Bodhisattva. So what they did was, they left the Bodhisattva. Now our Mahabodhisattva was all alone in the middle of the jungle. There was no one to help him. There was no one to care about him. No one knew about him. He was all alone. But he didn't think about that loneliness as something depressed or something negative. So he thought, now I have more time for myself. I can do my meditations freely. There was no one to think about me. So I must use this time for my self-development. That is what Mahabodhisattva thought. So that is the way that we also should think about this loneliness. If you are feeling lonely, if you are having some kind of a loneliness situations in your life, use that time, use that valuable time to create a better life for yourself, because you have more time. You can do meditations. You can stick into a daily routine of the self-development. You can do meditations. You can do workouts. You can walk for some time. And you can be with this nature, read a book, or learn something new, practice meditations, do exercises. These things can be done when you are all alone. So, rather than feeling depressed about the situations that you are in, why can't we become more happy about the time that we are spending alone, right? So practice this, okay? So if people comes to your life, let them come. If people walks away from your life, let them walk away. But you have to be by yourself. You have to think about yourself. That is what you have to think, and that is what you have to do in this valuable time. So I think you got some idea about the loneliness and being in the solitude. So practice the solitude and make your life more better. Namo Buddhaya. We all seek happiness in this world. If I ask from you, would you like to be happy in your life? What will be your answer? You will say, of course, I want to be happy in my life. I want this peaceful state. I need to be in that. That is your answer. That is the answer of all living beings. Buddha says that all living beings likes to be happy and they seek the happiness. If you really think about our life, we are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. Let me tell that again. We are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. That means we are pursuing happiness, we are chasing and we are seeking for happiness, but yet we have not found it. So, what is the reason for this not finding happiness? Why we don't find happiness in our life? We are seeking it, we are finding for it, but we don't find it. What is the reason? Well, the Buddha teaches us that we are finding or we are seeking this happiness from a source that the happiness does not exist. Because we are seeking happiness from external world. We are seeking happiness from these materialistic things. Well, when you seek happiness from materialistic things or external world, you get pleasure, but that is not happiness. Pleasure is something temporary and it gives you this instant gratification. But in happiness, the happiness is long-lasting and it gives you this happiness or the contentment about yourself. So that is why Buddha teaches us that you're finding the happiness from a source where the happiness does not exist. So the more you find it, the more you become frustrated. So, will we ever be able to find happiness in our life? The Buddha answers this question. He says, yes, you can find happiness in your life. How to do that? If you look closely to the first and the second verses of Dhammapada, Buddha says, if one with an impure mind speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him like a cartwheel following the ox. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him. And in the next verse, Buddha says, if with a pure mind one speaks or acts, the happiness will follow him like a shadow following a man. So that means the happiness and the sadness entirely depends on the purity and the impurity of our mind. When our mind is pure, we can find the happiness. So, how can we gain this purity in our mind in order to find the happiness? Well, Buddha teaches us there are a lot of things that you can do to make your mind pure. So today, I'm going to share with you a few things that can give you the happiness in your life, that you can find the happiness in your life. First thing, accepting the reality of life will give you the happiness. You know, life is full of ups and downs. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have beautiful memories, sometimes we also have miserable memories. So life is not something that is going equally every day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When you realize this reality, you can face these situations successfully. Right? It is not always this bad experience makes us frustrated. It is our reaction towards this bad experience makes us frustrated. Whenever you get a bad experience or a bad day or a bad situation, tough situation, difficult situation, you have two choices. Either you can focus on the pain and feel miserable about that situation, or you can focus on the lesson that bad situation teaches us and learn from it and start growing your life. So, if you accept the reality of life, it is not temporary. Sometimes the people around us are not in our control. We cannot control their reactions. We cannot control their opinions. So when you realize these situations, you can face those situations successfully. That is one thing, accepting reality of the life. Number two, Buddha said, be generous. Practicing generosity is a major practice in Buddhism. Well, in Buddhism, the generosity is known as dana. In dana, Buddha says that you have to give without any expectations. We have to give and we have to dedicate towards others without expecting anything in return. That is one thing that we have to practice. Most of the time, we like to hold on to things or gather the things towards us. That is what people think. When you gather more, when you collect more things, you will get rich and you will gain happiness. But that does not give you the happiness. It will give you the pleasure, but it is temporary. So what we have to do, Buddha says, be generous, give, help others, dedicate a part of your life on behalf of others. When you do that, when you become more generous, let's say like this, you gave some foods to a poor person, let's say like that. When you see that person is having those foods and overcoming his hunger and making his life much better, you can be happy by seeing that. When you become happy like that, you feel happy about yourself. Right? Nothing can give you that happiness. Like by eating a good food, by dressing a nice dress, you cannot gain that happiness. You don't feel happy about yourself. Right? Let's say after hundred of years later, maybe 10 decades later, when you think about that incident, I gave this food to this poor person. When you remind that, you feel happy. Even then you feel happy. That means happiness is long-lasting. So Buddha says, be generous, help people, do something nice every day for a person. That is one thing we can do. And number 3, forgiving. Forgiving is one of the most important things that we can do to create happiness in our life. We have to forgive ourselves. Also, we have to forgive others too. Because forgiving, when you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are saying okay to others' mistakes. It's okay. No, you're not saying like that. When you forgive, you make your heart free. So when you forgive, it's not for that person, it is for you. And also we have to forgive for ourselves. There are so many mistakes that we all have done in the past. If you hold on to past, and if you make this present moment miserable, that will not give you the happiness. So what do we have to do? Whatever the bad thing that we have done in the past, we have to have this ability to forgive ourselves and start all over again. We all have that ability, right? We all have that privilege to start our life again and make it a better one. Okay? So no one is perfect in this world. We all have done mistakes. One thing that we have to do is to forgive and start doing good things. So these are 5 things that we can do to create happiness in our life. And also, there is one happiness that is called the ultimate happiness in this world that the Buddha teaches us. That is called Nibbana or Nirvana. That is the enlightenment. When you realize about the reality of this life, and when you remove this desire or the craving that arises within your mind, then Buddha says that is the ultimate happiness. Simply, the Nibbana means Ragakkayo, Dosakkayo, Mohakkayo, Nibbana. That means removing of the desire, anger, and the delusion of the mind is called the enlightenment. So that is the highest level of happiness that we all can reach. So when you practice these practices, right, when you engage yourself in wholesome state, that will create you the happiness in the life. So practice these things and make your life a happier one. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. When you're working for your success, when you're trying hard to make your life better, sometimes you may find haters in your way. That is the normal nature of this world. If someone tries to make good to this world, if someone trying to make his life a better one, there will always be haters around him. There will be people who talk to that person to put him down. But how to deal with them? Today, from this Inner Guide Q&A program, we are going to learn how to deal with the hater. Normally, haters are the people who are with negative mindset. They are the people who are with weak mindsets. So, first you have to remember that we cannot avoid each and every hater in our way. We cannot keep their mouth shut because they will always speak. So, what is the best reply for a hater? The best reply is silence. Say nothing, do nothing. Just work on your success. Focus on your goals and just work on that. That is the best reply. Never reply from the words. reply from the actions. So even our great teacher, Supreme Buddha, had haters. When he was preaching the Dhamma, when he was healing the hearts of the people with the Dhamma, there were people who talked trash about him, who tried to put him down. But Supreme Buddha never replied with anger. Supreme Buddha never replied with resentment. Supreme Buddha never went to argue with them, because he knew the best reply for a hater is silence. And also Supreme Buddha advised us, when people talk rude words to you, when you hear harsh words, what you have to think is, I shall not affect my mind from anger, and I will not speak any evil words to them. Instead, I will make my spirituality a pure one. I will make my life a better one. Because if you are focused on your goals, if you are focused on your life, that is the best reply to the haters. Remember, therefore never be a hater, and also never be afraid of the haters. Because only negative people show their anger to others. Mentally strong people, people who practice the spirituality best, never show their anger to others. So remember, say nothing, do nothing, focus on your goals, just work on it and achieve the goals, and that is the best reply to them. So reply with silence, never reply with words. Namo Buddhaya, Theruvan Saranai.
To be happy is every living being's right in this world. Everything that we do, everything that we say, why we are doing them, we do that to be happy. Just ask from yourself, why am I doing what am I doing? You can answer to yourself. You will find that the reason why I do everything in life to make myself happy. If I ask from you, why do you wake up early in the morning and just prepare some food and go out to work? To make yourself happy and to make others happy, isn't it? Yes. You gain happiness by making others happy as well. That you have to remember, right? So there are two types of happinesses in this world. The first type of happiness is called the material happiness, right? And also the other type of happiness is called the spiritual happiness. To call it a good life, to call it a perfect life, one must achieve these two types of happinesses in his life. One must experience both of these happinesses in their life, right? So from this video, I would like to share a wonderful teaching from the Buddha that explains about what are the types of happinesses that a person who is living in a household life, a family life, must achieve. Now, according to Buddhism, there are two types of lives. The first type of life is called the household life. That means the people who are living in a family life, right? Maintaining a family, living in a house, engaging in material pleasures and all the stuff, right? A household life. That means you, right? And also, there is this other type of life. It is called the monk's life, right? Which we can call them the homelessness life. That means we leave our houses, we leave our families and become monks, right? So that we no longer own a house. We no longer own a family. We no longer maintain a family, right? So the ones who renunciate the household life, the ones who leave the household life, they seek a higher kind of happiness, right? That doesn't mean that they don't seek any kind of happiness. We as monks, why we become monks is to seek the spiritual happiness. Now, when you become a monk, it doesn't mean you totally deny seeking the material happiness, right? But for a monk, there must be a limit for seeking the material happiness, because as living beings, we can't totally deny seeking material pleasure. As living beings, we must consume some sort of material pleasures in this world. But that seeking, that consumption of material pleasure must not disturb the peace and the spiritual happiness that a monk is seeking, right? So for monks, there are limitations for material happiness, okay? But it is less of the material happiness and more of the spiritual happiness. So in this teaching of the Buddha focuses on household life, a householder, a person who is living a family life. To call that life a perfect life, a good life, the Buddha says that there are 4 types of happinesses that a householder must achieve in their life, right? The first type of happiness, the Buddha called it Ati Sukha. What is it? Ati Sukha. Ati Sukha can be translated into English as the happiness of ownership. Now, what do you mean by the happiness of ownership? Buddha explains the happiness of ownership as one must work hard, put his time and energy and strive and earn money righteously in the correct way, right? He must earn money, he must earn wealth in the righteous way. Now, what do you mean by in the righteous way? Is by you should earn money without harming anyone, without harming yourself and without harming the other people, without harming the society, right? If you earn money without harming anyone, that is the righteous way of earning money. Now, Buddha said, as a householder, you must be happy and you must enjoy earning money, right? Buddha was someone who did not say that you should not pursue happiness. You should not pursue material happiness. The Buddha said, if you are a householder, you must do that. That is your duty, right? So the Buddha said, strive hard, work hard, put your time and energy to what you're working on, and earn money righteously. That is a happiness that you can gain, right? When you have enough money to your life, then you can be happy about thinking that I own this wealth. This is my wealth. That is sort of a happiness that one can gain, right? That is the first type of happiness that Buddha said a householder must achieve in their life at some point in their life, right? That is the first one. The second type of happiness that Buddha taught for householders to achieve is called Bhoga Sukha. The Bhoga Sukha can be translated into English as the happiness of enjoyment. Now, first you earn money, right? Now you spend money and enjoy it in the correct way, right? The Buddha says that you have to spend money in a way that you should not harm yourself and you should not harm the other people as well, in the righteous way, right? So that when you spend money doing good things like helping people, helping your parents, with your money, with the money that you righteously earned, and when you spend that money on the people who you love, right, to make them happy, it gives you a happiness, right? It is a great happiness that one can achieve. That you have to achieve in your life. Okay, so the second type of happiness the Buddha taught to achieve is called the Bhoga Sukha, the happiness of enjoyment. The third type of happiness that Buddha taught us to enjoy in the life is called the happiness of freedom from debt. That we called Anana Sukha. Anana Sukha is the happiness of freedom from debt. Now, when you are free from debt, let's say you don't have any loans or any debt to pay, right? You're financially free. Then how much freedom that one can feel, right? You feel freedom, you feel a happiness that I'm no longer in debt to anything, right? I don't have any loans to pay, I don't have any debt to pay, so I'm financially free. That is a happiness that a householder must achieve in their life, right? That is a great happiness that one must achieve. The freedom, financial freedom, right? This is the third type of happiness. And then the fourth type of happiness, this is the most important thing. This is the most valuable happiness that a householder must achieve in their life, according to the Buddha. Buddha said, the fourth type of happiness is called Anavajja Sukha. Anavajya sukha means the happiness from blameless life. Now, what do you mean by a blameless life? The Buddha says that you have to do things, you have to say things, you have to live your life in a way that you do everything with a good heart, with a good mind, with a wholesome heart, right? When you spend your life as a good-hearted person, as a good person, as a wholesome-hearted person, right? It gives you a bigger happiness, bigger enjoyment, thinking about who you are. That is the most important thing, because all the other material happinesses, right? All the other three material happinesses, it can give you happiness, right? I don't say that it cannot give you happiness, but if you did not have this happiness, anavajja sukha, if your heart is complaining who you are, what you do, right? If your heart is regretting about who you are, then the other things doesn't matter, right? What matters the most is how you live in this life, right? At the end of our life, the most important thing that we can be happy about is how we live this life, how much love we gave to other people, right? How much we helped to other people, how righteously and how correctly we lived our life. So the Buddha said, you must achieve this happiness as well, right? So these are the 4 happinesses that a householder, one who is living in a family life, spending a family life, must achieve. So I hope this video and this teaching from the Buddha gave you a little light to your life. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to achieve all of these happinesses in this very life.
Have you ever wondered why some people are so good and so clever in what they're doing? Maybe there are some people who are studying with you, maybe some people who are in your workspace. There are some people who are very clever and very capable of doing in their profession, okay? They are very successful in it. What is the reason behind this? What is the reason behind this success? Well, if we can define success in one word, the only word that we can find is consistency. This quality is very important for all of our lives. Not only in your day-to-day life, not only in your career, but also in your spiritual path. Okay? If someone is practicing spiritual path, consistency is the key for success. Okay? Now, what do you mean by consistency? Consistency means doing something every single day or without stopping for a long period of time until you get better at it. Now, if we look at our life, there are some bad habits we all have in our life. Okay? Why we are so good at these bad things? The reason behind why we are so good at bad things is we have done it for a long period of time, every single day, without stopping. That is the nature of our mind, and that is the nature of our life. Whether it is good or bad, if we are doing it consistently, or if we are doing it over and over for a long period of time, we get so good at it. That is why we are so good at distractions. That is why we are so good at anger, jealousy, and all these evil thoughts in our mind, because we have practiced it over a long period of time. Now, Buddha said, if you need to cultivate wholesome thoughts, and if you need to do, and if you need to be successful in your spiritual life, what are you going to do? You have to cultivate and you have to practice these wholesome thoughts or wholesome activities for a long period of time without stopping, okay? Every single day, okay? Let's keep the spiritual life for a part. Let's take the studying and education. Now, if you're someone who is studying and if you're someone who is focused on education, what do you have to do? You have to keep studying, okay? Sometimes you find very difficult and very challenging to keep studying. Why? Because our mind gets distracted. Okay, sometimes we lose our focus. Now, in that time, so many of people, they complain that I cannot study. Okay, I'm distracting always. What is the reason? Why? What is the problem with me? Well, The only problem behind the failure or the unsuccessfulness is lack of consistency. Sometimes we try to study and then we feel tired and we feel less focused, and then we give up. Okay, and then after maybe like 2-3 days, again we try to study, and then again the same thing happen, and then we give up. Okay, in that way you're not going to be successful. Okay, if you want to be successful in any field of your life, maybe studying, maybe in your meditations, maybe in your spiritual life, maybe in kindness, maybe cultivating compassion in your life, what do you have to do? You have to be consistent. That is the only way to be successful in anything. I can still remember when we came to become monks, okay, on the first day, our monks gave this first advice to us. That is, they said that it takes several minutes to become a monk physically, okay? It takes a few minutes to make your body a monk. But it takes years and years, maybe lifetime, to be a monk from your mind. You will fail, you will be unsuccessful in some parts in your life, but you have to keep going. Do not ever quit. That is the first advice that we were given. So, to be good at anything, to be successful, to be happy, to be successful in your spiritual life, to practice meditations, to be good at that, what are you going to do? Keep doing it every single day. That is the thing. But there's a problem. The real problem or the real enemy for the consistency is the higher expectations. We set a lot of high expectations in our life, and when we are not able to get it, we give up. That is the only thing. Now, so many people come to me and complain that I cannot meditate for 1 hour. What is the problem with me? I cannot focus for 1 hour. Well, in the beginning, no one can do that. Okay, there may be some few lucky people in this world. Okay, they can concentrate instantly. But if you want to be good at in your meditations, in your focusing and your concentration power, what do you want to do? Keep doing it. Okay, do not set high expectations. Right? Aim for the little achievements. Maybe like you can focus and you can think like, before you are starting meditation, you can think, well, if my mind became concentrated or well focused only for 1 minute, that's okay. I'm happy with that 1 minute. Okay? When you focus on that, you can easily achieve it. You can do that. When you achieve it, you feel a sense of happiness in your life. You feel like you achieved that target. So in the next day, when you meditate, maybe you can focus your mind or you can concentrate your mind for 2 minutes. Okay? So if you keep on focusing on little achievements and without having high expectations in your life in the first time, then you will be good at maintaining your consistency. Because sometimes when we don't see results, okay, when we don't get results quickly as we want, we just give up. That is the biggest problem in our minds. Okay, to be successful, you need to spend a period of time that you are not seeing the results. Okay, one day I was climbing, and in Sri Lanka we have a nice mountain where we climb to see the Buddha's footprint. Okay, that is called Adam's Peak or the Satipatthana in Sri Lanka. So once we were climbing, we could not see the mountain top. We don't know where we are going. Okay, so one monk said to me, it doesn't matter, you cannot see where you are going, but if you're clear in your next step, take that step. Okay, and if you're in the correct path, no matter how fast or slow you go, you will go to your destination that you want to go. So always remember that it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you are moving towards success. The most important thing is that whether you are going to do it every single day in the correct way or not. So remember, consistency is the key for success for anything. So keep doing what you're doing right? Keep doing the good works that you're doing, even if you don't see the results in your life. Keep doing it, and one day I'm very sure, okay, I'm very sure that you will achieve your goals definitely. So keep that in your mind. May you be happy and well.